The cold wind cut through David's jacket as he stepped out of the research station. He had been working in Antarctica for 3 years now, studying strange life forms that could survive in the frozen wasteland. Most people thought his job was boring, but David loved the mystery of discovering new things hidden beneath the ice. That morning started like any other. David was checking his equipment when the ground scanner started beeping wildly. Something big was buried deep under the ice, about 2 miles from the station. It wasn't a rock or a piece of metal from an old expedition. The readings showed something completely different. "This is weird," David muttered to himself, staring at the strange patterns on his screen. The object was giving off a faint energy signature that his machines had never detected before. After 15 years of studying science, he had never seen anything like it. David gathered his drilling equipment and headed out into the white wilderness. The temperature was minus 40 degrees, but his curiosity kept him warm. As he walked across the endless ice, he couldn't shake the feeling that today would change everything. It took him 6 hours to reach the location. The GPS coordinates led him to a spot that looked exactly like everywhere else, just white ice stretching forever. But his scanner insisted something important was right beneath his feet. David started drilling. The ice was harder than usual, almost like it was protecting whatever lay below. After 2 hours of drilling, his equipment hit something solid, but it wasn't rock or metal. It felt smooth, almost like glass. He worked faster now, his heart beating with excitement. As he cleared away more ice, he could see something dark beneath the surface. It was curved and smooth, definitely not natural. David had found plenty of meteorites before, but this was different. This looked like it was made by someone. By evening, David had uncovered enough to see the truth. Buried beneath 20 feet of ice was a craft unlike anything he had ever seen. It was about the size of a small airplane, but its shape was impossible. The surface was smooth and black, with strange symbols carved into its side. David's hands shook as he took pictures. He knew he should call his supervisor, but something told him to wait. This discovery was too important to rush. He needed to understand what he was looking at before anyone else got involved. The craft had a crack running along one side, probably from the crash landing. David managed to squeeze through the opening and found himself inside something that definitely wasn't built by humans. The walls glowed softly with a blue light, and the air inside was warm despite being buried in ice for who knows how long. In the center of the craft was a small chamber, almost like a bedroom, and there, lying on what looked like a bed made of crystal, was a child. David's breath caught in his throat. The child looked human, but not quite. Her skin was pale with a slight blue tint, and her hair was white as snow. She appeared to be about 6 years old, wearing clothes made of a material David had never seen before. For a moment, David thought the child was dead, but then he noticed her chest rising and falling slowly. She was breathing, but it was different from human breathing. It was slower, more controlled, like she was in a deep sleep. David reached out carefully and touched the child's hand. Her skin was warm, and the moment he made contact, her eyes opened. They were large and dark, filled with an intelligence that seemed far older than her apparent age. The child sat up slowly, looking around with curiosity rather than fear. She studied David's face for a long moment, then tilted her head and said something in a language he had never heard before. The words were musical, almost like singing. "It's okay," David said softly, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm here to help you." The child listened to his words, then pointed to herself and said something that sounded like Zara. David smiled and pointed to himself. "David," he said. The child repeated his name perfectly, then pointed up through the crack in the craft. David looked up and saw the moon shining through the ice above them. The child said Luna and smiled. Over the next few hours, David was amazed by how quickly the child learned. She seemed to understand that David was trying to help her, and she began picking up English words at an incredible speed. By the time David helped her out of the craft, she could say basic sentences. "Where's my family?" she asked, looking around at the empty landscape. David's heart broke. He didn't know how to tell her that she was probably the only survivor of whatever had happened to her people. Instead, he wrapped his coat around her and led her back to the research station. As they walked through the snow, David realized his life had just changed forever. He had discovered something that would shock the world, but more importantly, he had found a lost child who needed his help. The child, he decided to call her Luna since she had pointed to the moon, walked beside him without complaining about the cold. She seemed fascinated by everything around her, asking questions about the ice, the sky, and the strange building ahead of them. When they reached the research station, David faced his first difficult decision. He should report his discovery immediately, but something told him to wait. This child had just lost everything she had ever known. She deserved time to understand her situation before the whole world came looking for her. David gave Luna some warm clothes and food. She ate carefully, testing each bite before swallowing. Everything was new to her, but she adapted quickly. As she ate, she continued learning English words, pointing to objects and repeating their names. "Book," she said, picking up one of David's science journals. "That's right," David replied, amazed at how fast she was learning. Luna opened the book and began reading, not just looking at the pictures, but actually reading the words within minutes. She was turning pages and asking questions about complex scientific concepts that most adults wouldn't understand. David realized he wasn't just dealing with a lost child. He was caring for someone with abilities far beyond anything he had ever encountered. Luna was special, and if the wrong people found out about her, they might want to study her like a laboratory specimen rather than treat her like a person. That night, as Luna slept peacefully in the spare room, David sat at his desk and thought about what to do next. He had discovered something that would change humanity's understanding of the universe. But his first priority was protecting the innocent child who had literally fallen from the stars. Outside, the Antarctic wind howled through the darkness. But inside the research station, David made a promise to himself. Whatever happened next, he would make sure Luna was safe. She had already lost her family and her home. She wouldn't lose her chance at a normal life if he could help it. David looked out at the stars and wondered where Luna had come from. Somewhere out there was a world that had sent this remarkable child on a journey that ended in the frozen wasteland of Earth. Now it was up to him to help her find her place in a world that wasn't ready for her existence. The discovery that should have made David famous had instead made him a guardian. And as he watched Luna sleep peacefully, he knew he had made the right choice. Some discoveries were too precious to share with a world that might not understand their true value. 3 days after finding Luna, David's peaceful world came crashing down. He was teaching her how to use a fork when the sound of helicopters filled the air. Through the research station window, he watched as black aircraft landed in the snow, and people in dark suits stepped out. "What's happening?" Luna asked, her large eyes filled with worry. David's heart sank. Someone had discovered his secret. Maybe his equipment had sent automatic signals. Or perhaps satellite images had shown the unusual activity at his location. Either way, the government had found them. The lead official introduced himself as Agent Wilson. He was a stern man with cold eyes who spoke like he was giving orders rather than having a conversation. Behind him stood several scientists and military personnel, all staring at Luna like she was a prize they had come to collect. "Dr. David Chen," Wilson said, reading from a file. "You've made quite a discovery. We're here to take custody of the subject for national security purposes. Her name is Luna," David said firmly. "And she's not a subject, she's a child." Wilson ignored his words and gestured for his team to approach Luna. The little girl moved closer to David, clearly frightened by the strangers. David could see the fear in her eyes, and it made his chest tight with anger. "This entity poses a potential threat to Earth's security," Wilson continued. "We have facilities designed to study and contain alien life forms. The child will be well cared for while we determine her capabilities and intentions." David knew what study and contain really meant. They wanted to lock Luna away in some underground laboratory, running tests on her for the rest of her life. They saw her as a specimen, not as a scared little girl who had already lost everything. She's not a threat, David argued. She's learning our language, eating our food, and sleeping peacefully. She's just a child who needs help, not a prisoner. But Wilson wasn't interested in David's opinion. He ordered his team to prepare Luna for transport. As they approached her, Luna grabbed David's hand tightly. "Papa David," she whispered, using the name she had started calling him. "I'm scared." That word, Papa, hit David harder than any scientific discovery ever could. In just 3 days, this remarkable child had become more than his responsibility. She had become his daughter in every way that mattered. The scientists wanted to sedate Luna for the helicopter ride, but David refused to let them. He demanded to accompany her, knowing that separating them would traumatize her even more. Wilson reluctantly agreed, probably thinking David might be useful in controlling the subject. As they flew through the stormy Antarctic sky, David held Luna close. She was trying to be brave, but he could feel her small body trembling against his. The other passengers talked about her like she wasn't there, discussing test procedures and containment protocols. "The subject shows remarkable adaptation abilities," one scientist said. "We'll need to run comprehensive neural scans to understand how her brain processes information. The muscle tissue samples will help us understand her physical capabilities." Another added. David felt sick listening to them. They were talking about cutting into Luna, studying her like a laboratory animal. He looked down at her innocent face and made a decision that would change both their lives forever. When they landed at the temporary government facility, David asked for a private moment with Luna before the tests began. Wilson granted him 5 minutes, probably thinking it would help calm the child. David knelt down to Luna's level and spoke quietly. "Listen to me carefully. In a few minutes, I'm going to create a distraction. When I do, I want you to run to the storage room we passed. Hide there until I come for you." Luna nodded, understanding the seriousness of the situation. Despite being just a child, she was incredibly smart and seemed to sense that these people meant her harm. David's chance came. When a sudden blizzard hit the facility, the power went out, and emergency generators kicked in with red lighting. In the confusion, David triggered the fire alarm system, causing chaos throughout the building. As alarms blared and people ran around trying to restore order, David found Luna hiding exactly where he had told her to go. Together, they slipped out through a maintenance exit and into the howling storm. The blizzard was their friend that night. The snow was so thick that visibility was almost zero, making it impossible for anyone to track them. David had grabbed survival gear and a snowmobile during the confusion, and they disappeared into the white wilderness. They traveled for hours through the storm, David using his knowledge of the Antarctic landscape to navigate toward an old research outpost he knew was abandoned. Luna held on tightly behind him, never complaining about the cold or the frightening ride through the darkness. The old outpost was exactly as David remembered it, empty but functional. It had been used for weather research years ago, but budget cuts had closed it down. Now it would serve as their temporary hideout while David figured out their next move. As they warmed themselves by the small heater, Luna looked up at David with gratitude in her large eyes. "Thank you, Papa David. Those people wanted to hurt me, didn't they?" David's heart broke at her innocent question. "They didn't understand that you're special in a good way. Some people are afraid of things they don't understand." Luna nodded wisely. "My real family taught me that fear makes people do bad things, but love makes them do good things. You chose love." Over the next few days, David used the outpost's radio equipment to monitor government communications. They were searching everywhere, but the storm had covered their tracks well. David knew they couldn't stay hidden forever, but he needed time to plan their next move. During those quiet days, David and Luna grew even closer. She helped him cook their simple meals, and he taught her more about human culture and customs. She was fascinated by everything, asking endless questions about Earth and its people. "Will I ever see my real family again?" Luna asked one evening. As they watched the stars through the outpost window, David didn't know how to answer. He suspected Luna's family was gone, but he couldn't bring himself to destroy her hope. instead. He made her a promise. I don't know what happened to your birth family, but I promise you'll always have a family with me. We'll find somewhere safe, where you can grow up and be happy. Luna smiled and hugged him tightly. You're my family now. Papa David, thank you for saving me. As David held his adopted daughter, he realized that escaping from the government facility was just the beginning. Now he had to figure out how to build a new life for both of them, somewhere they could live without fear of being discovered. The man who had spent his life studying alien life forms was now responsible for protecting the most important alien life form of all, his daughter, and he would do whatever it took to keep her safe, even if it meant running for the rest of their lives. Outside, the Antarctic wind continued to howl. But inside the small outpost, David and Luna had found something worth more than any scientific discovery. They had found family. 2 years had passed since David and Luna escaped from the government facility. They now lived in a small town called Riverside, nestled between rolling hills and quiet forests. David had grown a beard and wore glasses to change his appearance. Luna looked like any other 8-year-old girl, with her alien features carefully hidden through special makeup and contact lenses. That made her eyes look normal. David worked as a substitute teacher at the local elementary school, a job that let him stay close to Luna while keeping a low profile. The townspeople knew them as Dr. Robert Hayes and his adopted daughter Anna. Their story was simple: a widowed professor who had adopted a child. After her parents died in an accident, every morning, David would help Luna get ready for school. She had learned to control the slight glow her skin sometimes showed when she was excited or scared. They practiced this every day, making sure she could blend in perfectly with human children. Remember, Anna, David would say, using her fake name. Keep your hands in your pockets when you're thinking really hard, and don't answer questions too quickly. Even if you know the answer right away, Luna would nod seriously. She understood that being too smart too fast would make people suspicious. It was hard for her to pretend to be less intelligent than she really was, but she did it to keep them both safe. At school, Luna was popular with her classmates. She was kind and funny, always willing to help others with their work. Her teacher, Mrs. Patterson, loved having her in class because she was so well-behaved and eager to learn. But sometimes, Luna would slip up. During a math lesson about addition, she accidentally solved a complex multiplication problem that the teacher had written on the board. As an example for older students, Mrs. Patterson looked surprised but didn't say anything. Another time, during a science project about plants, Luna explained photosynthesis in a way that sounded like she was reading from a college textbook. The other kids stared at her with wide eyes, and Luna quickly pretended she had just remembered something her dad had taught her. At home, David and Luna had created a warm, loving family life. They cooked dinner together every evening, with Luna learning to make human food while David learned about her favorite dishes from her home planet. She would describe the taste of crystalline fruits and floating grains that grew in the air, rather than in soil. I miss the singing flowers, Luna said one evening as they sat on their porch watching the sunset. They would change colors when the music was happy or sad. David's heart ached for her. She was so young when she lost her world, but she still carried beautiful memories of her original home. He wanted to give her new happy memories to balance the sadness. Tell me more about the singing flowers, David said, settling beside her on the porch swing. Luna's eyes lit up as she described her home planet. The cities were built inside giant trees that grew kilometers tall. The people traveled by riding on gentle flying creatures that looked like rays of light. Children went to school in floating classrooms that moved through the clouds. It sounds amazing, David said, genuinely fascinated by her descriptions. It was, Luna replied quietly. But this is amazing too. I love our little house and my school. And Mrs. Patterson and my friends. I love you, Papa David. David hugged her tightly. I love you too, sweetheart, more than all the stars in the sky. Their peaceful life hit a bump when Luna started having strange dreams. She would wake up in the middle of the night, speaking in her alien language and reaching toward the sky. During these episodes, her skin would glow brightly, and small objects in her room would float in the air. I can hear them, Luna whispered one night after a particularly vivid dream. My people. They're calling to me. David was worried. Luna's abilities were getting stronger as she grew older, and it was becoming harder to hide them. During the day, she was a normal little girl, but at night, she was clearly something extraordinary. The situation became more complicated when Mrs. Patterson started asking questions. She had noticed that Luna seemed to understand concepts far beyond her grade level. More concerning, she had seen Luna help a classmate who was choking by somehow knowing exactly what to do, even though no 8-year-old should have that kind of medical knowledge. Robert, Mrs. Patterson said to David after school one day, I wanted to talk to you about Anna. She's a remarkable child, but I'm concerned about some of her behaviors. David's heart started racing. What kind of behaviors? Well, she seems to know things she shouldn't know. Yesterday, she corrected a mistake in our geography textbook about the distance between planets. When I asked her how she knew that, she said she had read it somewhere. But the information isn't in any of our school books. David tried to stay calm. She reads a lot at home. Maybe she saw it online or in one of my science journals. Mrs. Patterson nodded, but David could see she wasn't entirely convinced. There's something else. During recess, I saw her talking to a bird in the playground. It was just sitting on her shoulder, like it was listening to her. When I got closer, the bird flew away, but Anna seemed upset about it. That evening, David sat down with Luna for a serious conversation. We need to be more careful, he said. Gently, people are starting to notice that you're different. Luna looked sad. I try so hard to be normal, Papa David, but sometimes I forget. The bird was lonely, and I wanted to help it. The math problems are so easy that I answer them before I think about it, and my dreams are getting stronger. David knew they were approaching a crossroads. Luna was growing up, and her abilities were growing with her. Soon, it would be impossible to hide what she really was. What if we moved again? David suggested. Found a new town where no one knows us. Luna shook her head. I don't want to keep running forever. I like Mrs. Patterson and my friends. I like our house and our life here. Can't we just stay and be careful? David wanted to say yes, but he was scared. The government agents were still looking for them, and if Luna's abilities kept growing, someone would eventually figure out the truth. That night, as David tucked Luna into bed, she looked up at him with her big, trusting eyes. Papa David, do you think my real family is still alive somewhere? David had wondered the same thing many times. Luna's dreams seemed to suggest that her people might still be out there, trying to communicate with her, but he didn't want to give her false hope. I don't know, sweetheart, he said honestly, but I do know that whether they're alive or not, you have a family right here. We'll figure this out together, okay? Luna smiled and hugged him goodnight. As David watched her fall asleep, he made a silent promise. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever difficult choices they might have to make, he would do everything in his power to protect his daughter and give her the happy life she deserved. Outside their window, the stars twinkled in the dark sky, and David couldn't help but wonder if somewhere among those distant lights, Luna's people were looking back at Earth, hoping their lost child was safe and loved. She was both of those things, and David would make sure she always would be. Luna was now 13 years old and looked like any other teenager, but her abilities were becoming impossible to hide. During a regular Tuesday science class, everything changed. The teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, was explaining gravity when Luna's mind wandered to her dreams from the night before. In her dream, she had been floating above her home planet, watching the crystal cities sparkle in the light of 3 suns. The memory was so vivid that she forgot where she was. Without thinking, she lifted her hand, and every object on Mr. Rodriguez's desk began floating in the air. The classroom went completely silent. Pencils, books, and a coffee mug hung suspended in midair, slowly rotating like they were in space. Luna realized what was happening and quickly dropped her hand. Everything crashed back down onto the desk with a loud bang. What just happened? Whispered her classmate Jake, his eyes wide with shock. Luna's face turned red. I don't know. Maybe it was the wind. But there was no wind inside the classroom. Mr. Rodriguez stared at Luna with a mixture of confusion and concern. Several students had their phones out, and Luna realized with horror that they might have recorded everything. Everyone put your phones away, Mr. Rodriguez said quickly. Luna, could you stay after class, please? The rest of the day felt like a nightmare. Luna could hear students whispering about her in the hallways. Some thought it was a magic trick. Others believed it was some kind of scientific experiment. But a few seemed to understand that something truly strange had happened. When David picked Luna up from school, he could see the worry in her eyes immediately. What's wrong? He asked as they drove home. I made a mistake, Papa David, Luna said quietly. A big one. She told him everything that had happened in science class. David's heart sank. After 5 years of careful hiding, Luna's secret was finally out. He knew it was only a matter of time before the wrong people heard about it. That evening, David's fears came true. A woman knocked on their door, introducing herself as Dr. Jennifer Walsh. She was in her 40s with kind eyes and a gentle smile. But David could sense she was more than she appeared to be. I'm a scientist who studies unusual phenomena, Dr. Walsh explained. I heard about what happened at the school today. I think we need to talk. David's first instinct was to deny everything, but Dr. Walsh held up her hand. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I work for the same agency that's been looking for you and Luna. But I'm not like the others. I believe Luna deserves protection, not imprisonment. Luna came downstairs and immediately sensed that this woman was different from the cold agents who had tried to take her away years ago. You're not going to hurt us, Luna said. It wasn't a question. Dr. Walsh smiled. You're right. I'm here to help. May I sit down? Over the next hour, Dr. Walsh explained the situation. The government had never stopped looking for Luna, and they had developed new technology that could track unusual energy signatures. Luna's telekinetic episode at school had triggered their sensors. They know you're here, Dr. Walsh said sadly. Agent Wilson is already on his way with a full team. They'll be here by tomorrow morning. David felt the world spinning around him. We'll run again. We've done it before. Where will you go? Dr. Walsh asked gently. Luna's abilities are getting stronger. She can't hide them much longer. And they have satellites watching for energy spikes like the one that happened today. Luna looked between the two adults, understanding the gravity of the situation. What do you want us to do? Dr. Walsh leaned forward. I have a proposal. Come back with me voluntarily, but under strict conditions. Luna would be treated as a person, not a test subject. She would have rights, legal protection, and the chance to help bridge the gap between humans and her people. Her people? David asked. Luna's eyes lit up. You know about them. Are they alive? Dr. Walsh nodded. We've been detecting signals from space for the past 6 months. Someone is trying to communicate with Earth, and the signals are getting stronger. We think they're looking for Luna. Luna stood up excitedly. I knew it. In my dreams, I can hear them calling my name. They're coming for me. David felt a mix of joy and terror. He was happy that Luna might be reunited with her birth family, but scared of losing the daughter he loved so much if her people are coming. David said slowly, then Luna needs to be free to meet them, not locked up in some laboratory. Dr. Walsh agreed. That's exactly what I'm proposing. Luna would work with us to prepare for first contact. She would be our ambassador, helping both species understand each other. Luna walked to the window and looked up at the stars. I've been having stronger dreams lately. I can see their ship getting closer. They're scared too. Papa David, they don't know if humans will welcome them or fight them. David joined Luna at the window. What do you want to do, sweetheart? It's your choice. Luna was quiet for a long moment. I want to meet my birth family, but I don't want to lose you. You're my papa, and nothing will ever change that. David hugged her tightly. You'll never lose me. I'll always be your father, no matter what happens. Dr. Walsh watched the tender moment between father and daughter. There's something else you should know. The signals aren't just random communication attempts. They're coordinates. Luna's people are planning to land on Earth in 3 weeks. Luna gasped, 3 weeks? They're that close, yes, and when they arrive, the whole world will know that we're not alone in the universe. Luna, you could be the key to making sure that first meeting goes peacefully. David realized that their quiet life in Riverside was over forever. Luna was about to become the most important person on Earth, the bridge between two worlds. But she was still his 13-year-old daughter, and he would do whatever it took to protect her. If we do this, David said to Dr. Walsh, I want to be with Luna every step of the way. I want guarantees that she'll be treated with respect and dignity. Dr. Walsh nodded. You have my word. Luna will never be treated as a prisoner or a test. Subject, she'll be our most honored guest and our most important ally. Luna took David's hand. I'm scared, Papa David, but I'm also excited. I might finally get answers about where I come from. David squeezed her hand. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. You're not alone in this. As they prepared to leave their home once again, David looked around at the life they had built together. The kitchen where they cooked dinner every night, the living room where they watched movies, Luna's bedroom with her school projects on the walls. Will we ever have a normal life again? Luna asked quietly. David smiled at her. Sweetheart, we were never normal, but we were always a family, and that's not going to change. No matter what happens next, the next morning, as government vehicles arrived to escort them to the facility, Luna looked back at their house one last time. She was leaving childhood behind and stepping into a role that would change the world. But she wasn't facing it alone. She had David by her side, and soon, she might have her birth family too. For the first time in years, Luna felt like she might finally discover who she really was and where she truly belonged. 3 weeks later, Luna stood on the observation deck of the government facility, watching the night sky with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She was now 15 years old, having spent 2 years working with Dr. Walsh and her team to prepare for this moment. Tonight, her birth family would finally arrive on Earth. David stood beside her, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder. Over the past 2 years, he had watched Luna grow from a scared teenager into a confident young woman who carried the hopes of two worlds on her shoulders. She had learned to control her abilities completely and had become fluent in several Earth languages to help with translation work. Are you ready for this? David asked softly. Luna nodded, though her hands were shaking slightly. I've been dreaming about this moment for years, but now that it's actually happening, I'm terrified. What if they don't remember me? What if I'm too different now? David squeezed her shoulder. You're still the same wonderful person you've always been. They're going to love you just like I do. Dr. Walsh approached them, holding a communication device. Luna, we're receiving a direct signal. They're asking to speak with you before they land. Luna took the device with trembling hands. She closed her eyes and spoke in her native language, words that flowed like music. The response came immediately, and Luna's face lit up with pure joy. It's my mother, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. She remembers me, she said. She never stopped looking for me. The conversation continued for several minutes, with Luna laughing and crying as she spoke with family members she hadn't seen in over 9 years. David felt his own eyes fill with tears as he watched his daughter reconnect with her birth family. They want to meet you, Papa David, Luna said, looking up at him with shining eyes. I told them about how you saved me and raised me as your own daughter. They want to thank you. An hour later, the alien ship appeared in the sky like a beautiful jewel made of light. It was nothing like the damaged craft David had found in Antarctica years ago. This ship was magnificent, gracefully descending toward the landing pad like a dancer made of starlight. As the ship touched down, Luna gripped David's hand tightly. I'm scared, she admitted. What if meeting them changes everything between us? David knelt down to her level, just like he had when she was a little girl. Luna, listen to me. You are my daughter in every way that matters. Meeting your birth family doesn't change that. You don't have to choose between us. Love isn't something that runs out when you share it with more people. The ship's door opened with a soft musical sound, and 3 figures emerged. Luna's birth parents were tall and graceful, with the same pale blue skin and large dark eyes as Luna. Between them walked a younger figure who looked exactly like Luna might in a few years. "My sister," Luna whispered in amazement. "I have a sister." Luna's birth mother approached slowly. Her eyes filled with tears that sparkled like diamonds. She spoke in their musical language, and Luna ran into her arms. The reunion was beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. A family torn apart by tragedy finally coming back together. David watched from a respectful distance, feeling both happy and sad. He was thrilled that Luna had found her birth family, but part of him worried that she might not need him anymore. Luna's birth father approached David and spoke in careful English. "You are David, the one who saved our daughter." David nodded. "I just did what any parent would do." "I love her." "We know," Luna's father said, placing a gentle hand on David's shoulder. "Luna has told us everything. How you found her, how you protected her, how you raised her with love and kindness. We can never repay what you have done for our family." Luna brought her sister over to meet David. "This is Zara," she said in English, then repeated it in their alien language. "And this is Papa David, the most wonderful father in the universe." Zara studied David with curious eyes, then surprised him by speaking in perfect English. "Luna taught us your language through our mental connection. She talks about you constantly. You are very important to her." Over the next few hours, the two families got to know each other. Luna's birth parents, Kai and Lyra, explained that they had been searching for their lost daughter ever since the ship crash. They had traveled across the galaxy following faint energy signals, never giving up hope that she was alive. "We are explorers," Kai explained. "We studied different worlds and species, learning about life throughout the universe." Luna was part of our family research team when the accident happened. Lyra looked at Luna with pride. But now she has become something even more special. She is a bridge between our worlds, someone who understands both human and Zephyrian culture. As the evening continued, Luna faced the question that David had been dreading. Her birth parents invited her to return home with them, to see the world she had been born on and meet the rest of her extended family. "I want to see my home planet," Luna said slowly. "But I don't want to leave Earth forever. This is my home." To now, David's heart swelled with pride at her words, even after reuniting with her birth family. Luna still considered Earth her home. Zara had an idea. What if Luna could split her time between both worlds? Our people have always believed that learning about other cultures makes us stronger. Luna could be our ambassador to Earth. Kai and Lyra exchanged glances, then smiled. "That is a wonderful idea. Luna could spend part of each year with us, learning about her heritage, and part of each year here, continuing her work as a bridge between our species." David felt a weight lift from his shoulders. "What do you think, Luna?" Luna looked round at both families, her birth parents and sister, David and Dr. Walsh, and the human friends she had made over the years. "I think I'm the luckiest person in the universe. I get to have to families, to homes, and to worlds to love." 5 years later, Luna had become exactly what she had dreamed of being. She split her time between Earth and her home planet, serving as an ambassador in helping to establish peaceful relationships between humans and Zephyrians. She had started an exchange program that allowed young people from both worlds to learn about each other's cultures. Human students traveled to her home planet to study their advanced technology and philosophy, while young Zephyrians came to Earth to learn about human art and literature. Today was a special day. Luna, now 20 years old, was getting married to a human marine biologist named Alex, who she had met during one of her diplomatic missions. The wedding was being held in the same small town where she and David had once hidden, now transformed into a symbol of interspecies cooperation. David walked Luna down the aisle, just as he had always dreamed of doing. In the front row sat her birth parents and sister, beaming with pride. The ceremony included traditions from both worlds, with floating flowers from her home planet and Earth roses creating a magical atmosphere. As David placed Luna's hand in Alex's, he thought about the scared little girl he had found in the ice all those years ago. She had grown into a remarkable woman who had changed the world simply by choosing love over fear. "You did good, Papa David," Luna whispered as she hugged him. "No," David replied, looking at the amazing woman his daughter had become. "We did good together." As Luna and Alex exchanged vows under a sky filled with stars from two different worlds, David realized that the greatest discovery of his life hadn't been finding an alien child in the Antarctic ice. It had been learning that family isn't about where you come from, but about who chooses to love you and who you choose to love in return. Luna had taught him that home isn't a place on a map, or even a planet in space. Home is wherever your family is, whether that family is human, alien, or something wonderful in between.